One of the questions raised by moral philosophy concerns its purpose. Is its function to make us better people and to bring greater goodness into the world? Or is it to clarify what is true about our ethical decision-making, allowing us to more rationally and clearly act upon what is our basic nature? What do you think? Is the purpose of a course in ethics to improve or to clarify our moral behavior? This means, to some degree, that moral philosophy involves our ideas about human nature. What do we care about? What should we care about? Is it our nature to care only about ourselves, or to only care about ourselves and close loved ones? Or is it in our nature to care about all of humanity in the world, even if we need to encourage each other to listen to the better angels of our nature, as Lincoln described it? One answer to these questions is provided by egoism, a moral system that says we are to put the self, the ego, as the primary focus of moral decisions. Psychological egoism simply says that is what we naturally do. Even when we appear to be helping others, it is only because it makes us feel good about ourselves and so serves our ego needs. Normative egoism, by contrast, is prescriptive and says doing what is our personal self-interest is how we ought to act. What is moral is what serves ourselves. This is not necessarily the same as being greedy. Egoism may approve of helping others if you receive a benefit from it. But to an egoist, what you get out of the act is what makes it ethical. For example, you can view paying taxes as a moral action if you keep in mind the benefits you gain from the taxes. You are able to attend a state college for a low tuition rate, or can drive for free on state roads, or have police to safeguard your safety. However, if you focus on how tax money benefits others in ways that do nothing for you, you may view those taxes as immoral and a form of theft. In a nutshell, that is egoism in action. There are several philosophers who fall under the rubric of egoism in different ways. One is Niccolo Machiavelli, a political theorist from the Renaissance, who wrote The Prince. He was primarily concerned about rulers, and said that morality is subordinate to maintaining power and order. A ruler should do what is necessary to maintain his ability to rule. That may involve benevolence at times, or brute force. It is desirable to be loved and feared, but of the two, it is better to be feared. Might makes right. The Godfather movies are an example. Don Corleone's actions were determined by what was necessary to maintain his power. Some loved him, all feared him. If you were part of the small circle who benefited from his rule, you saw him as moral. If you weren't, you saw him as a mobster. Another philosopher was Thomas Hobbes from 16th century England. He believed humans were naturally selfish, individualistic, and aggressive. What we label as good and bad was simply our personal preferences, nothing more. If left to ourselves, we would exist in a state of constant conflict with lives that were nasty, brutish, and short. To avoid that end, he thought it was necessary for people to willingly subject themselves to a governing authority. The primary motivation for doing that would be egoistic self-interest, since enforced order would increase the general welfare, including your own. Hobbes's ideas are the beginnings of thoughts about democratic political systems. Finally, a 20th century philosopher of egoism was Ayn Rand. She called her philosophy objectivism. The goal was to maximize personal happiness through uncoerced personal choices and the rational analysis of reality. She thought this was most clearly present in free market capitalism, where people get what they earn. Capitalists make money by taking full advantage of what the world presents to them. If you don't do the same, the little you have is your own fault. Rand thought altruism, or helping others, was equivalent to a death wish, and the Christ figure was the ultimate symbol of altruism. Altruism, she said, holds death as its ultimate goal. Renunciation, self-denial, and self-destruction are made into virtues. People who follow Christ, in a sense, belong to a death cult that requires sacrifice of the self. Critiques of egoism come from several directions. One questions the idea that people are naturally self-interested. Darwin thought humans were naturally communal animals, not individualistic, because what mattered was not the survival of an individual, but the group. And some cultures do put family and community at the center of moral concern, rather than the individual. An emphasis upon individualism, in fact, appears to be a facet of modern cultures, not traditional ones. Feminist philosophers believe the primal human experience is one of being cared for, and the focus of ethical philosophy should be caring relationships, not self-interest. Another critique argues that egoism can be self-defeating. As Hobbes indicated, the unregulated pursuit of self-interest by others may end up hurting you and prohibit the pursuit of your own self-interest. If self-interest leads us to ignore pollution, for example, contributing to climate change, the resulting global problems may well diminish everyone's welfare, including the self-interests of those who ignore the pollution. There are also questions concerning fairness and justice. Most everyone acknowledges that life is unfair. However, should greater amounts of fairness and justice be promoted? Is it acceptable to ignore injustice unless you get something out of fixing it? By that measure, chattel slavery might still exist, since its practice didn't negatively affect people without slaves. In fact, people without slaves benefited from slavery in the form of cheap cotton and cloth. In the end, it comes down to the question we asked at the beginning. Should ethics attempt to improve our behavior rather than simply enshrine what seems natural or expedient? Is it important to encourage people to see beyond their self-interest or national boundaries or personal prejudices? In a highly individualistic culture like our own, with an emphasis upon the pursuit of self-interest, but that also views itself as Christian, is the Christ figure something to be emulated, or is it a symbol of naivete and self-destruction? Is loving others a good idea, or must we always get a return for services rendered? What do you think?